I've been craving donuts recently. Like, big time. Ever since I got back from the cheese dimension, I haven't stopped thinking about consuming donut-type pastries. It's getting real embarrassing. Last week I tried chewing on a donut-themed mascot in front of a bakery. He didn't get away. It's been extremely difficult to get my hands on actual, donuts. For example, I walked into a patisserie looking for this delectable confectionery, and to my dismay, the local animators from the next town over animated the wheels to eat themselves. A tragic and delicious end for them, but nothing for me. And every establishment has been this way as well. Strange occurrences has happened at every business I entered. The local bakery had already banned me. The local Conjurers Guild had burned down from the new apprentices summoning fire elementals without hot mitts. And the Alchemist Guild won't help me turn lizards I catch into sweetbreads. These past 2 weeks have been a nuisance. I mean, how hard can it be to actually get a donut around here? So, yesterday afternoon, I decided to try my hand at making donuts myself. But I didn't have any knowledge or equipment to even begin to make the dang things. So here's my afternoon journey into making donuts. Secret to a good bank heist is all in the fancy bags you put the money in. So, step 1, get the bags. I know a guy, Zachariah's his name. He works at the Golden Stew down on 35th and Pazuli. I never met the guy, but he tosses out leftover potato skins at night. We will be taking those potato sacks he tosses with him. The sacks are strong and can hold a lot, just what we need, and with little snacks to boot. Step 2, pilfer some equipment. Lost in the great forests where the tiny roll cake people make home lies a great trove of mixers and bowls just waiting for the taking. Step 1, catch a ride. We need to actually get to the forest, and teleporting is a no-go. Those little spiral-colored confectionaries have set up an anti-magic barrier to keep the giant snail monsters from eating them. So, we go by air, sea, and then land. Step 1, we hitch a ride on the back of an 18-wing glider that those two brothers came up with. When we tie ourselves to the back of a merchant vessel, swim the rest of the way when we get closer. And finally, we sneak onto a giant snail and ride the rest of the way. Step 2, getting the natives to lead us to the treasures. This step could be tricky, so brush up on your roll cake. Forcing one of them to lead us at staff point is garish, and I don't want to be looking over my shoulder every time I leave a bakery. So, we do it the old-fashioned way, by using these potato skin sacks to disguise ourselves and follow them. Step 3. Once we find the equipment, we need to find a way to get back to base. Again, I think the potato sacks will help here. Then, once we are out to sea, we can teleport back to town. Step 3. Ingredients. Arguably the most important part of the entire operation, gathering ingredients to make the donuts themselves. It will be a simple donut with nothing fancy. We don't want to get into more trouble than we already are. So, I've compiled a list of ingredients we will need. 1 bag of flour, 1 bag of sugar, milk, yeast, eggs, butter, salt, 1 bag of noxious bloom, 8 eyes of newt, strawberries, blueberries, and behemoth's eye. Now, most of these ingredients should be easy enough to gather. The flour, sugar, and milk can all be gathered by raiding nearby farmsteads. The yeast will have to be harvested from the bacteria people of my gut microbiome. They trade in a sweets-based farmers market economy, so a few candies will also be necessary. Eggs and butter can also easily be acquired by hunting the local cockatrices. Bloom and newt and berries can be bought at the alchemist. I can summon a behemoth from sacrificing rat kidneys and harvesting their eyes. Now, salt will be the trickiest of the bunch, and stealing from the great salt vaults of nearby kingdoms will take a bit more planning. Step 1. Use those potato bags we got to sneak through the castle gate guards and find our way to the crown salt vaults. Step 2. Break into the vault. The vault itself is probably enclosed by a huge vault door that's a thick piece of iron. We could blow it open, but I would rather simply turn it into water and absorb the salt that way. After I do that, step 3. Escape. Yet now it could be tricky. They most likely have magic cameras watching the place, so we will need to be quick. I've devised a plan to blow a huge wall in the castle with a big fireball and run as fast as we can back to base. Step 4. Making the donuts. At least, that was the plan for making the donuts. That took me almost all afternoon to come up with that plan. My pet robot bug army was ready to go. And around the time I'd finished writing up the final draft for the plans, the local patisserie had made more in the hours after the animators left. However, on my way over to the establishment to finally sate this confectionery craving, I ran into the donuts mascot outside the bakery I was banned from, and battle ensued. Locked in a battle of brain and brawn, I stared down my opponent on the cobblestone streets of town. Circling each other without making a move, we moved clockwise poised to cast a first spell or charge at the other. There, the donut and I circled what felt like forever, and the crowd soon began to gather. Throwing slurs about artificer and confectionery, they were relentless in their verbal harangues. The shouts became louder as I and my delicious opponent stared at each other down, unblinking, hands ready to grab. Soon, though, the crowd began to die down as my opponent and I kept our eyes locked together, circling tightly. More time passed as we circled, and slowly the crowd began to dissipate even more so, even as no words were exchanged. Before long, night had fallen, and in the soft glow of the streetlights, my opponent and I had still been circling each other. The final crowd members had dispersed with a scornful gruff and pull from his scarf. Snow had begun to fall in the twilight hours, and even when we were shivering, we still circled that cobblestone road. The snowpack had become thick, and we had created a circular trail in the snow, chasing each other around and around. The morning sun had begun to rise and melt the snowpack. Still, my enemy watched me with bated breath. At long last, the Animancer's magic had worn off, and the confectionery devil had reverted into its original form, a donut. I made the last turn to relish in the defeat of my enemy. There lied a half-bitten glazed donut lying in the dirty wet snow. Delicious. Alright, that's the end of the story. Bye.